The sight of irrigators burning the draft Murray-Darling plan in 2010 is the enduring image of the first attempt at public consultation on the basin's future. A second draft is still out for comment. This time the response has been more muted, but irrigators remain deeply concerned about their future under the plan. And perhaps the most remarkable moment this time around was a passionate speech by a school principal. From Finley in the New South Wales Riverina, Peter McCutcheon reports.
In the heart of irrigation country is one of the community's most valuable assets, the local school. Finley High may not have featured prominently in the long and complex debate over the health of the Murray-Darling Basin, but the headmaster of this school has made his presence felt. How difficult has it been for you as a teacher and a headmaster to stick your head up in the dangerous world of irrigation politics?
Personally, I don't think it's been dangerous at all or difficult, because the livelihood of my students, my parents, and in effect my own family has potentially been affected by it.
You might well ask, what's the Murray-Darling Basin Plan got to do with school principals? In truth, heaps.
Bernie Roebuck's address at a public meeting in Deniliquin about the latest Murray-Darling Basin Plan last December was measured, sincere, yet passionate.
I implore you not to be so naive as to think that the people of these communities are unreasonable or unimportant. Thank you.
And in response, there was no burning of reports, but a deeply appreciative standing ovation. The Federal Water Minister Tony Burke later singled out this very speech as one that would stay with him for life.
Bernie's speech was one of those profoundly important speeches that you occasionally bump into over your years in public life.
Were you surprised by the response to your speech at Deniliquin?
Absolutely.
It's a resource that is both wondrous and frustratingly erratic. For more than a century, the states have argued over water use in the Murray-Darling Basin while farmers grappled with flood and drought. 5 years ago, the Howard government began a process to end the squabbling once and for all.
Burn the plan! Burn the plan!
The first draft plan for reform was ditched after widespread protests, and last November, Draft Plan Mark II was put out for comment. It set a figure for returning water to the environment, 2,750 gigalitres, that was condemned by the environmental movement as far too low, but still troubled irrigators.
If 40 or 50% of our water entitlements are sold, go back to government for environmental purposes, there's a huge challenge for us to be able to deliver affordable water to those farmers who remain.
It's easy to see what the residents of Finley think about the plan. This is the sort of township the Basin Authority concedes is most vulnerable.
It's a small community of about 2,000 people, like most of the towns in the irrigation areas, and it's totally reliant on irrigated agriculture around here.
20 years ago, when Bernie Roebuck first worked at this school, Finley High had 700 students. Today the school has 430.
That drop can be attributed to a whole range of factors, not just water policy. A lot of other factors that affect rural areas as well. So it's a huge issue for us, and schools need to be a certain size so that we can offer our students a full range of educational opportunities. If we get to a point in time when the school is very, very small, that will limit the options we can afford our students.
Bernie Roebuck has spent his career working throughout the Riverina and witnessed not only a drop in school enrolments, but also the closure of government departments.
Does it make the debate all the more difficult because this is a community already under pressure for different reasons?
It does. This adds to it, and sometimes it's you've got to try and differentiate this, because you don't want to see it as a great steamroller where everybody's out to get you, and it can sometimes appear that that's the argument. But at the same time, we're trying to ensure that people in this part of the world have got a quality of life that's reasonable and fair and no different to anybody else.
Quality of life is something Finley irrigator Phil Snowden is concerned about. Although the Basin Authority has ruled out compulsory buybacks of water entitlements, he's worried that fewer irrigators will mean higher costs, with a flow-on effect throughout the community.
You've got truck drivers, you've got supply businesses. My son works as an apprentice mechanic in there. All of those sort of jobs, if the water goes, they go.
Not all irrigators along the Murray River accept the Basin Plan will result in economic doom. Sunraysia wine grower Howard Jones accepts the argument that a healthier river system will, in the longer term, result in a healthier agricultural sector.
The Basin Plan is something we need. There will be some impacts on it, but it's far better to have an impact than have a river basin that's not going to function, because it's our fundamental resource.
But in Finley, heavily reliant on irrigation with few obvious economic alternatives, that argument is harder to sell. Although Bernie Roebuck, the man whom irrigators stood and applauded, believes there is more common ground than many believe.
But the whole point of the Basin Plan is to improve the health of the river system and the health and sustainability of local communities. Why do you think that argument isn't cutting through?
Oh, look, I think that argument does cut through here. I think people fail to understand that. I don't think I've met an irrigator yet who doesn't talk about sustainability as being a really vital part of their operation. I think people want to be involved in that discussion. But just to essentially have a point of view that farmers alone are responsible for this is just nonsense. And we've got to go beyond that sort of discussion.
Peter McCutcheon.